So the Contender Series week number 4 took place yesterday, and honestly, me recording this is just a delaying of the inevitable, because I do need to do a lot of study today for my test, which is next Tuesday, but that will happen after this. I actually didn't watch this card live. I actually watched this card on a little bit of a delay because my family was up visiting me yesterday, but I watched it last night, and honestly, it was a very good card, and of course, it did make 3 perfect cards in a row for me. I have picked 3 cards 5-0 in a row, which is insane because the Contender Series, I've said every single year, is very difficult to pick. And honestly, last year I didn't really do incredibly well on the predictions, I don't think. And even in week number 1, I went 3-2, and I kind of thought, oh, like that's probably just what it's going to be throughout the whole year. But no, we're on a good run. I think next week could really kind of throw a spanner in the works, but let's talk about this one. And I think, honestly, one of the most controversial things is actually this fight here, McMillan versus Mgoyan, because I think a lot of people think that it was a 10-8 for Mgoyan in round number 1. And if you've watched Fight Companions with me, I dish out 10-8 rounds like they're no tomorrow. I give them out all the time. I am a big believer in 10-8 being given out more frequently. But I don't think it was a 10-8 for Mgoyan in round number 1. And the reason for that is because I thought that McMillan was actually winning a lot of the moments before Mgoyan got the knockdown. And even after McMillan got out of the guillotine, McMillan was doing damage on the feet for a few seconds before the round ended, which I think was kind of significant as well. And of course, earlier in the round, McMillan was threatening with the front chokes, as I said he was going to do. So I think that McMillan just kind of throughout the round did enough damage to kind of negate the absolute knockdowns that was Mgoyan's. You know, Mgoyan did knock him down twice. Now, only one of those was with an elbow, the other one was with a head clash. So if the judge scored it a 10-8 because he thought the head clash was a legitimate knockdown, that is really unfortunate, to be honest with you. But as for the fight, really, I think it kind of come down to something that we'd never seen out of Tony McMillan before, and that is he showed grit, he showed toughness, and he showed just a will to win. And the reason why I say we've never seen that out of him before is because he went into this fight 8-0 with 8 first-round finishes. He had never fought against really anyone that had tested him. You know, he just dominated everyone that he'd ever fought. So we didn't really know that McMillan had that side of his game until this fight. And this is a really good win for him, in my opinion. And I think it's good for his career because he just went 3 rounds with a really tough up-and-coming prospect. You know, before that, his cage time was like 7.5 minutes and 8 fights or something insane. So I think it's good for McMillan to get this sort of level of experience, I would say, against another tough guy. And as for Mgoyan, man, he'll be back. We will see Mgoyan again. He did gas out. Of course, he did gas out against John De Jesus, but he didn't gas out that badly against De Jesus as he did in this matchup. But I think it's just because McMillan was able to defend his takedowns so effectively in round number 1, and also maybe he gassed out his arms. Maybe he had an adrenaline dump because he thought he had won the fight with the guillotine. I don't know, but McMillan, man, that guillotine defense, I guess, I don't even know if it was a guillotine. It was like a weird sort of one arm, like, I can't remember, the commentators were calling it something different, but yeah, anyway, the point is McMillan escaped a very tough submission to get the decision win, and that one there as an underdog as well. Eduardo Chapelin won this fight. Now, I know that Dana White just goes out there and he says, oh, I don't know anything about you. You need to show me tonight, this, and that. I know Chapelin also was cheating a little bit in this fight, but Antoine Ho pulled the cage in round 1 to get a takedown. So, you know, both guys were cheating a lot in this fight. But I think that this is kind of where you got to make an exception. You know, you give Bison Gers to Sakayev all of that credit for turning around on 4 days. Well, Eduardo Chapelin turned around on 10 days to fight on the Contender Series against Antoine Ho and put up what, in my opinion, was a decent enough performance. You know, it wasn't the most entertaining fight in the world, but he showed offensive wrestling, he showed offensive striking, he showed everything that you need to see to tell that he is a good fighter at flyweight. So I think that I disagree with Dana not signing him, and I think that that is kind of where you need to understand the circumstances of the fight. Like, I feel like you need to still reward someone for taking the fight on short notice, because he took the fight on short notice. He fought 10 days before he fought Antoine Ho, and Antoine Ho's a tough guy to take on short notice. But anyway, Henrique won a fight by decision. Like, there's not really too much to talk about, really. I thought he was going to knock him out. He didn't knock him out, but oh well. Mandel Nullo beats Samuel Silva. I thought that Mandel Nullo was 33 years old. That was what Tapology had listed anyway, and I just went with it. I had no idea he was actually 36, but it probably makes sense when you actually look at his career. He has been in the game since 2009, man, and that does make a little bit more sense that he debuted at 20, not 17. But anyway, he knocked out Samuel Silva with a straight right. It wasn't even a straight right that looked like it had a lot of power behind it, but it was fast and it was perfectly timed. Like, Samuel Silva's taken a lot of damage in his career. We've never seen him folded like this, really. And Nullo, it didn't even look like it was a big sort of setup right. It would kind of like almost look like he didn't even had his fist all the way retracted back. It was just so fast, so perfect. And he just caught Silva right in the sweet spot, kind of snapped the neck of Silva a little bit. Silva had a little bit of a delayed sort of knockdown sort of thing. It was an awkward sort of fall, I guess. But yeah, he was out. It was done. Nullo knocked him out in round number 1. I think Nullo could be fun, man. The thing about him, though, being 36, they're not going to give him an easy debut, man. Like, I genuinely think you probably will see Mandel Nullo versus Fariz Ziam on the Contender Series card, on the Canada card in 7 weeks. That is my prediction for his debut. It might not make sense to some, but, I mean, if he's 36, they're just going to chuck him in there. So, that could be interesting. But I think if you wanted bangers out of Nullo, you give him guys like Charlie Campbell or Tom Nolan. I know they're fighting against each other, which is why I brought up the example. But that's the kind of a fight that Mandel Nullo would have, or even against Mateus Rebecki. I think that's probably too much, but like that would be a banger as well. Anyway, Cezary Olachechek beat Teo Haig. I mean, this was a really weird stoppage. I don't even really know how to describe it. Like, the punches weren't behind the back of the head. I also am a big advocate for back of the head shots being very, very frowned upon and should be penalized a lot more than they are. Cezary Olachechek wasn't hitting the back of the head of Teo Haig. And Teo Haig wasn't doing anything to get out of that position. The referee, Gary Copeland, just kind of was a little bit clueless and stopped the fight. Got Jason Herzog's opinion. Jason Herzog said the shots were legitimate. And he was said to Teo Haig, "You were out. You're done." And Haig was just kind of like, "Oh, okay." Like, I don't even think he really know what to do. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this fight. That's kind of what happened. Cezary started striking well, and then Haig got in on a takedown, and Cezary landed 20 unanswered hammer fists. Now, as for the fight, right? Like, if Haig can't get out of that position, 20 unanswered hammer fists, then that is an experience problem. That is you need to deal with this in camp problem. So, yeah, I mean, the fight was a fight. I think Haig is the kind of guy that they're going to bring back next year. I would like to see him win 2 or 3 fights for the LFA and then come back. I think he actually genuinely is a good fighter. I did obviously pick Cezary to win. I did, of course, pick Nullo to win as the dog. And I did pick Henrique to win by KO as well. And then this is the fight which, you know how I've always kind of complained, especially in 2023, I complained a lot about how fighters come into the Contender Series and they do not fight like they look on tape whatsoever. Jack Congdon is that guy. Jack Congdon, you watch this guy's tape, he's just throwing side kicks, he's throwing kicks to the body, he's throwing push kicks, that's all he's doing. He goes out there against John Paul Lesboiniani and boxes with John Paul Lesboiniani. He boxes with him. He boxed with the boxer. I don't know what the game plan was for Congdon. I don't think he watched tape, because if he watched tape, he would have known that that was a bad game plan. He gave up his best advantage. His best advantage in this fight was the size, was the height, was the fact that he can keep opponents at bay, and the fact that John Paul Lesboiniani, as I said in my breakdown, is going to try and dirty box with him in the clinch. Jack Congdon handed John Paul Lesboiniani the opportunities by boxing John Paul. This is the prime example of fighters fighting on the Contender Series completely differently to how they fight on tape. Trust me, you watch Jack Congdon's fight on his regional career, watch his fight in the Contender Series, completely different fighter. Completely different fighter that showed up, and John Paul Lesboiniani probably was in the moment and just thought, oh, like this guy's boxing with me? I don't have to worry about the push kicks? Like, and then just knocked him out. It's kind of as simple as that. Like, I don't really know what else to say. That was really surprising to me on the rewatch, was just how differently Jack Condon decided to fight on the Contender Series as to how he fought on the regional scene. But that is the Contender Series. That's what happened. I was on the right side again, thankfully, on the minus 500 favorite. John Paul. He claims he walks around at 190 pounds. I mean, that is welterweight size, but he was quite small compared to Condon. I really would like to know, can he make 155 again? Like, if he just can't, then you just can't. And that just is what it is. He's just going to have to kind of work with what he's got at 170. But I think his ceiling might be higher at 155 than it is at 170. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully we can have a good card for week number 5. Because I tell you guys one thing. I'll give you some hints. It's gonna be a shit show. An absolute shit show. 3 professional fights. 3 professional fights. Short notice. Short notice. I mean, multiple cancellations. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Seriously. This is not as good of a card. I think Chanel Dyer is a wicked prospect, and I cannot wait to see her fight. I think Cam Teague's fun. I think Larian Douglas is also an underrated prospect as well. But, like, what are we doing here, man? Just so little experience. Yeah, I just don't know. I'm so confused. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.